Hey guys, the Common Man here. So let's go ahead and talk about this beautiful multi-tool right here. And I'm going to start with an apology. This thing has got fingerprints all over it already, but just because of this high gloss finish on the stainless steel, there's nothing I can do about it. It's going to have fingerprints no matter what I do, so just bear with me. I promise when you wipe this thing down, man, it's got a beautiful shine to it. So it doesn't look like this all the time, but you know, when you get handling it, it's going to have blotches and smears and stuff all over it. But anyway, let's talk about it. So this is the almost said Spyderco. Just got done filming a video of a Spyderco. But this is the Victorinox Spirit MX Clip. This is their updated version of the Spirit MX. And man, I really, really like it. So what did they do to update it? First off, they gave you a clip right out of the box. So this does ship with a clip installed. I actually did I swapped sides. So this was on the other side. I put it on this side, and the reason I did that was because of the knife. And what's very cool is this updated version also has a one-hand opening knife blade. So it has a little nub attached there, and it makes it nice and easy to open this blade with one hand, which to me is a must for my multi-tools. I'm not very likely to buy a multi-tool if it doesn't have a one-handed opening knife. But well, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the tool. So you can see it's a very, very attractive tool. I did not care for the high gloss stainless steel originally. This is probably the last multi-tool I was interested in when I started getting interested in multi-tools. But I don't know, seeing it around more after picking up some Victorinox Swiss Army knives and realizing the quality of these tools, I pulled the trigger, I bought it, and man, am I glad I did. This isn't necessarily my favorite multi-tool, and I'll go over a couple of reasons why it's not, and you know, some downsides. But let's just go ahead and talk about the specifics and my opinions of this tool. So you can see it's got this high gloss stainless steel. Like I said, it is their proprietary stainless on the blade. On a lot of the other tools, I wish I knew the exact material, but they're not super transparent with what that material is. It's just their, like I said, their proprietary stainless steel. But man, it looks really good. It's extremely corrosion resistant. I've carried Swiss Army knives a ton in my pocket over long periods of time. I've sweated in them, I've gotten them wet, and they just don't rust, which is incredible. Like that's a big deal to me, is a tool that doesn't rust, or at least is very, very rust resistant. And this definitely is. So you can see it's got this beautiful Victorinox logo on there that looks really nice. Pocket clip looks great. Interesting attachment on that pocket clip. It actually attaches right on this side, which doubles as, whether whichever side doesn't have the pocket clip on it, doubles as a lanyard hole, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it just looks really good. It's got these beautiful disengagement nubs there, I guess you call them, with that really nice kind of jimping there for some traction. But yeah, that's the knife closed. We already looked at, I'm sorry, that's the multi-tool closed, but we've already looked at the blade. But let's go ahead and open it up. I do want to talk about its main tool, which is the pliers. So you can see when it's open, it's actually got this very nice curvature on the handles there, which makes it extremely comfortable in the hand. I mean, this is the most comfortable multi-tool I own. And it's also just rounded off so nicely. So there's no pinching, there's no edges. It just feels so good in the hand. Even back here with some of this additional hardware, it just is so soft and rounded off. It feels very, very nice. It's very interesting in its locking style. It's actually got these kind of, it's a flat plate, but it's got these probably like laser cut lines there. And what it does is it actually makes individual kind of tabs on that metal plate, which allows for these tools to lock into position. And then when you disengage that lock, I'm not 100% sure what happens in there, but it does disengage those tabs from the tool, and it allows the tool to close. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. So you can see the plier heads are rounded off beautifully well, and it's just so good looking, man. This is an incredible looking tool. I do want to mention before I forget, all pinned construction, so it's not you can't disassemble it, unfortunately. But anyway, very nicely rounded off here. Nice aggressive teeth in that jaw there. Some finer teeth up here for the needle nose section. And then you do not have replaceable wire cutters, but these do work quite well. I've cut a bunch of coat hanger just to test them out, and I've seen no damage so far. Not a huge fan of the little notches that they put in there. Those are made for kind of smaller wires, but they might come in handy with keeping those wires in position while you're cutting. I haven't had an issue with it, that's for sure. But overall, as pliers, as cutters, they do perform quite well. But that's that in the open position. Let's go ahead and look at the internal tools. So, like I said, we've got the knife blade. So we're going to come back to this, but you can see what it is. It's just a standard Victorinox kind of Swiss Army knife style blade, sort of a sheep's foot, I guess you could call that. Let's get actually a measuring tape here and give you a length on that. Because one thing that I want to say, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, it's not a very large blade. So what do we have here? Cutting edge is honestly about 2¼ inches, which is not a lot. The whole blade itself is about 2½ inches. So 2¼ inches of cutting blade isn't a ton. And yeah, we'll leave it there until I come back to it a little bit later. The other thing, like I said, is it is that standard Victorinox kind of Swiss Army knife blade material, which is their proprietary stainless steel, which is so. Let's go ahead and talk about each individual tool. Here we have a can opener, which is actually done extremely well. It's got double-edged, or it's sharpened on both edges there, so it cuts right into cans, no problem. You've got a nice little flat head there, and then this is how the disengagement works. You just pinch and pull back, and then it disengages. And let's just listen to that snap. That is so nice. It's so satisfying to open and close each individual tool on this thing because it is so crisp. It's just done so well. Let's open up the Phillips. And I want you to also hear that that primary kind of click, click, snap. Man, it's just so nice. I love doing that. It just, I don't know what it is. It makes it kind of fidgety, honestly, because I just love the noise of it. But Phillips head, you can see, I believe it's a number 2 Phillips, and it fits really well in the larger Phillips screws. It has very good engagement. It has not slipped on me. Really great tool there. Let's see. We've got a small flathead / tiny pry bar, I guess you could use it as, although I would use that really just as a flathead, which works great. You've got the scissors here, not very big. They don't open up all that well, or I'm sorry, they don't open up all that wide, but they are good enough for paracord. They're good for zip ties. They're stronger than you might think. They work very nicely. They're very comfortable. I like this little hook here. It just makes using them very comfortable. And then on the other side, let's go ahead and get nail nicks in here. And all of these work on nail nicks, which is not my favorite thing in the world, but it works. It's fine. This is a very aggressive file. You've got a little bit less aggressive on this side. This side is extremely aggressive, and I think this is more of kind of a cross cut. This is a single cut. And then you do have an edge file or metal saw here. I wouldn't use it on very hard metals, but if you need to cut some soft metals in a pinch, this will probably get you a few cuts before it starts dulling out, but I would expect it to dull if you use it as a saw often. Next up we have an awl/reamer without a hole, so you can't really use it for stitching, unfortunately. You could probably drill a hole in that, though. You definitely could if you really wanted to. And then you have a nice, robust pry bar / flathead and bottle opener, and then also a wire bender if you find yourself in need of a wire bender for some reason. And then this is a very cool tool. This is a chisel / package opener, because you can see it's chisel grind on the very end there, as well as a little bit on the side, so you have a nice edge. And let me actually show you. I kind of want to demonstrate this because this is pretty sweet. This is the original packaging, by the way. But you see, you can actually puncture and then you can cut. So for these kind of clamshell packages, you can actually cut, and I'm not making it look very easy. I promise you it's a lot easier than I'm making it look. Well, you get the idea. It works quite well. And then it's got incredible wire strippers, which are very sharp. They work very well. Small wire stripper here, and then this one is good for wire sheathing for bundled up wires. And then lastly, you have a wood saw, and a very aggressive, quite thin wood saw. Like I said, overall, I really enjoy this tool. I think it looks absolutely incredible. It feels very high-end. It feels like a precision tool. It feels very refined, I would say. Certainly refined is the word that I would use to describe this tool. But my big downside to this tool, unfortunately, and I say this every time I talk about multi-tools on my channel, if I'm carrying a multi-tool in my pocket, I am For starters, I'm planning on doing some serious work. I'm planning on either going out and working on something, whether it be woodworking, working on my car, working in the yard. I'm going to use the tool. And anytime I'm carrying a multi-tool, I find myself using the knife. I'm going to use the knife if I have a multi-tool in my pocket. And if I have a multi-tool in my pocket, I don't want to carry an additional knife. I want this to be kind of my one and only tool because I am a minimalist when it comes to carry. I don't like carrying a bunch of stuff in my pocket. I don't want a pocket knife and a multi-tool. So this kind of has to fill both positions. And unfortunately, this knife blade doesn't quite cut it for me. Little pun there. So you can see it's a small blade, like I said, 2¼ inches of cutting edge, which is not much. I mean, seriously, let's go ahead and compare it up against the Spyderco Para 3, which is kind of a standard knife that I would probably be carrying. And look at that blade size there. I mean, that's not that's not even close. And the thing is, this has got so much more kind of material, so much more body to that blade, so it's just going to be much more robust. You can feel much more confident in your knife and its cutting abilities if you're going to be cutting through some really tough stuff. And also the material. The blade material on this is the S30V, which is a pretty good high-end blade steel. It's going to cut for a good long time, give you lots of cuts, especially through some kind of tougher, more abrasive materials, burlap and things like that. If you're cutting with this knife, you are going to notice it dulling if you're doing any serious amount of cutting, because this is not a material that holds an edge particularly well. Again, if you've ever had a Swiss Army knife, you know that that blade just doesn't perform exceptionally well if you're used to high-end blade steels, and this is going to be the same thing, and I have noticed it dulling. So you're going to end up having to touch it up quite a bit. It does accept a touch-up from a strop very, very well, but I just don't want to have to keep touching up my knife blade. And again, like I said, if I'm carrying a multi-tool, I'm going to use it, and I'm probably going to use it hard. So I want a good knife steel in my multi-tool, or at least acceptable. And even Leatherman's 420 HC just barely gets you there. It's just barely good enough. And unfortunately, this isn't even quite on that level. This has a relatively low HRC, like 53 or 54, something like that. Whereas Leatherman's 420 HC, I want to say, is in the high 50s, 57, 58, something like that. And what that means is this is just a much softer material. I do still carry this multi-tool on the occasion. If I'm going to do some, strictly woodworking, if I know that I've got a woodworking job, this is a great tool to have because you have that nice, fine, very aggressive saw. You have a great file, which is great for rounding off edges or touching up little, if you're doing a little bit of custom woodworking, that's great for, reshaping different, sections of wood, whatever you need to do. So it's a really good tool for woodworking. And I think of it as a great multi-tool if you need some real, if you're doing some precision work. I don't know why, but this reminds me of, like, if you're a piano repairman, this is like what you would carry. I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Maybe that's kind of weird, but that's kind of like the thought that goes through my mind. But maybe it just reminds me of like an instrument and its, its beauty and its kind of refinement. But anyway, it's definitely a very refined multi-tool. It's something that I really, really enjoy having in the pocket, but that knife blade is a real big downside. But anyway, guys, I would highly recommend it. It's $140, $150 roughly, so you're paying a fair amount. But again, you are getting that refinement. You're getting those incredible interior tools, which are exceptional for what they're designed for. And it's just so comfortable in the hand. So yes, even for the price, I would highly recommend this tool. Definitely give it a look. And don't let this shiny finish steer you away. I think it's going to grow on you. So that's that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please leave a comment. I love reading them. If you like the video, leave a like. And if you want to see more of my knife, EDC, and a little bit of garage content, please consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks.